'cause my big breath's dead.
Hello everyone, Skippy here, and welcome to One Piece episode 937, directed by Satoshi Ito and supervised by Kazuya Hisada. While I'm not the biggest fan of Hisada's modern style, there's no denying that his extremely angular corrections have been pretty damn polished since he returned to being a supervisor only. And it doesn't look like 937 will be stopping that train whatsoever. Having not only the usual Hisada flair that we're more than used to at this point, but also work from American-created Japanese studio De Arte Stagio, and one of their key players, Henry Thurlow, who's participated on the anime a couple times before now, but now seems to be doing a bit of nicely executed and meaty action with smears and shading galore. Now, I'm not too sure what to expect from Satoshi Ito directorially speaking, since his past few episodes have been unfortunately lacking, but the direction and board that was on display in the preview looks to house enough of his brand of scale and emotion for me to at least expect it to be slightly above his more recent standard, even if the content itself still isn't ideal for him and is more of a setup episode. So will episode 937 manage to surprise me like last week did despite coming before more exciting content? Well, let's stroll on down to Ebisu and find out. This episode covers the remaining 13 pages of chapter 940, and I'm absolutely happy to report that this was yet another very well-paced episode. Just like last week, it manages to hold its own thanks to having enough content to cover in the first place, which makes it so it always feels like something is happening on screen at all times, and never feels boring or not engaging enough, which lends itself very well to creating small pieces of filler that aren't really too extensive outside of the Luffy fighting, but they once again prepare that connective tissue for future events nicely and are entertaining all the same, with lots of fun to be had in Chopper being terrified by Big Mom again, and Luffy and Co lovingly eating the Oshiroko that we'll see the effects of later. And in some areas it even telegraphs certain scenes better due to being in the medium of anime, with stuff like the time of day consistently changing throughout. The only real issue I honestly have with the adaptation is that Yasui being caught feels so randomly placed during the talk in the prison mines, and to some it may feel a bit unnecessary because of a later reveal in what seems to be next episode essentially doing its job for it, so I'll wait to expand upon it till then. But that's not really my actual problem with it. And it's a very small nitpick about what is otherwise an absurdly fun episode adaptation-wise from top to bottom, chugging along full speed with the recent solid pacing control which allows it to really stretch its limbs and come out a-okay on the other end, with the wonderful storyboard from director Satoshi Ito partially being deserving of that praise as well. After his past two boards were extremely bland and lacked a lot of the punchy visual flair, scale, and emotion of his prior work, I am so very glad to say that Satoshi Ito has finally found his groove again and managed to deliver an extremely colorful board that would make even a crayon box blush, using every opportunity to position and compose things in eye-catching ways that are only heightened more so by the wonderful usage of compositing that adds a distinct layer of polish to it all, and allows even the smallest parts of the episode like the name cards to massively stand out. And it's pleasantly complemented by wonderful scale that puts a nice bow on everything by making the surrounding areas feel as grand as they should with no signs of things being at all cramped. It's 100% the type of board that I not only expect from Ito himself, but also from this arc and the production overall as well, and I can't properly describe how glad I am to see it on screen here. Just like the adaptation, it feels like it has room to play around with every single little aspect of it, making it all nice and shiny in every crevice to bring forth what I will definitely say is Satoshi Ito's strongest board in this arc by far, as well as his long-awaited return to form. As mentioned before, I'm not typically the biggest fan of Hisada's more modern art, but I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't coming around to it thanks to his work here. With his sharp corrections looking quite possibly the most polished that they've been in Wano so far, as well as surprisingly loose, which allows for quite a bit of character to come out of most drawings, which puts a great big smile on my face seeing so much life being poured into some of my all-time favorite ones. Hisada on the whole has been rapidly improving in Wano as it is, but if he manages to keep this up, I may just continue coming around on his current art style and learning to appreciate it more all the same. Now animation-wise, this certainly isn't no 933, but the folks over at Day Art Stagio earn their keep and then some by doing so much of the actual animation here. And as expected, their superstar animator Henry Thurlow does some nicely executed action that has some cuts move more than others, but the intense layer of shading helps it have its own individuality, and some cuts get even quite ambitious by housing stuff like background animation, which is more than what it ever needed. Top that all off with a short but intense effects heavy scene from freelance French animator Sonda that stands out amidst the work done by Stagio, and 937 manages to surpass my expectations tenfold, which is exactly what I wanted. I went into this episode cautiously optimistic because of how Ito's episodes have been more recently, and because of how I feel about Hisada's modern day stuff in general. But what I ended up getting was an episode that helped me learn to love a supervisor that I was more on and off on, and gave a director that I know is capable of so much more another fantastic episode. And that absolutely has my hype raised for next week's episode 938, directed by Yasunori Koyama from Akitaro Daichi's board and supervised by Shuichi Ito. With a preview that looks absurdly strong directorially, with both Daichi's board and Koyama's excellent compositing and lighting flexing as hard as they can, along with some surprisingly strong looking cuts of animation here and there, I'm already looking forward to this episode so very much. There seems to be a few bits of filler that some may find divisive within the context that the final episode will bring, but I'm dead certain that it won't do a damn thing to hurt this episode's hopefully great quality. Anyways guys, that's it for now. I'm Skippy, and Chopper being held by Kiku is just so goddamn cute.